Yo, you sent me something that was interesting, Jay. And last week we talked about Dolce and hot ones and shit, and I found that to be heard a hot one saying all that shit, and most people would leave it at that.
Not
Most
us.
people would leave it at that. Oh, I didn't like I didn't agree with what she said. Whatever, or what she was implying. I don't agree, but let's move on. That's normal people, not Yoda. Yoda says, "Fuck that. I need to know what's what's really going on, right?" So he sends me this thing, and I'm like, I start to read it, and I'm like, whoa. So it's about I'll be brief. So this guy, I don't know if you guys know George Soros, right? I'm not going to go take a deep dive into George Soros. I already did, but interesting character to say the least. Dude's fucked up. So I mean, for what I've read, the dude's kind of fucked up. I did some research. I've done some research, and he's kind of fucked up. Um, yeah,
Yep.
he's kind of fucked up. That's another whole nother subject. I'll please do your research on Mr. George Soros. Um, so reportedly, he's purchased the company that distributes or owns the rights to the show Hot Ones, right? And that's the show that Dolce was on, and that we had the comments about or the takes about her saying that her red flag is straight men. That's her red flag. So once you do your research into George Soros and what he's about, I think you'll find that whole thing interesting. Right now, George, you really need to. Yeah, you really need to. I want to say some things about Soros, but I don't. You know,
This is homework
right,
right
right.
now. This is
This is
homework for
homework,
people to
right? This is
do.
homework.
So research who George
Right,
Soros
billionaire dude,
is.
billionaire dude.
It's very
Yeah, billionaire
interesting.
dude. He's known to support the left or whatever. That's what it. So do your research, but
Support or
or
guide.
yeah, look, I don't want, like I said, these guys got homework. These guys got homework. Do your own, because I don't want to throw stuff at people and they like, all right, and then they just go with that. Usually people just go with the captions or go with what is said on the pod or the clip, and they won't do their own research. I'm not going to say anything about George Soros to lead you in any direction. You do your own research, and then you look at that clip with Dolce and the clip they led with to promote the show Hot Ones, and that clip led me to a more interesting question from my standpoint. And I asked Jay, I was like, Jay, is it just me or do we see a power struggle, right, between, I hate saying left and right and all that other, that shit is fucking bogus to me because both of them are fucking whatever. But is there a power struggle over the control of influence over the sheep? Because I said to Jay, money without influence, money without influence nowadays is not going to cut it.
Mm.
Money without influence is not going to cut it. It's far more useful to control what you think so that you can be led to the correct slaughterhouse. Right? It's all slaughterhouses, right? The sheep. You're all going to it.
The way that they want you to be slaughtered.
Right. They want to slaughter you the way they want to slaughter you. Correct, Jay. So I asked Jay, is it just me or is there a clear cut power struggle between the left and right or left or whoever, man, whoever these fucking characters may be? Is there a power struggle over the influence of the sheep?
So I think yes and no, quite honestly. Like, obviously, intention wise, yes. But I think that up until a few years ago, when people were still much more prevented, much more capped from being able to freely speak online,
Mhm.
I think it seemed like much more of a, so to speak, power struggle over influence than it actually wound up being. Because when one side was able to control the entirety of the narrative, it seemed like the people who didn't agree with stuff were in the minority, like they were far out there and it was just some fringe people. But as soon as they took kind of the caps off of stuff, like Elon bought Twitter and just said everyone can say whatever it is that they want now, shit shifted heavily in the other direction with and quite honestly, what I think that they pushed it too far on the other end was with the transformer gender bender stuff. I think that's what pushed it too far over the edge, because it's they took something so fringe and pushed it so extremely. I think they overestimated the amount of sway that they had. And while, yeah, some people have absolutely been brainwashed into it, drunk all of the Kool-Aid, so to speak, to go along with it, I think that was too big of a pill for most people to swallow. And that's kind of what got people over to the other side. And because of the little cult-like thing that it created, because of how divisive that it was, like, if you even say anything that's less than 100% support of it, then you get attacked and crucified so heavily. And again, I think that drove a lot of people off in the other direction, where they were able to take more moderate stances, or more somewhat accepting but somewhat not really, or kind of a you mind your business, do your own thing, but it's not for me kind of stance. Whereas that side labeled it as full hate and bigotry. And it was the end of the world. They want people fired from their jobs and all of that shit. So I think back in the day, there was more of a power struggle for stuff than currently. And I think that if there was that type of influential power struggle, one side is clearly winning. And I think that that's why people like George Soros, again, do your Googles, are buying things like Hot Ones, because while back in the day, a few years ago, the mainstream media was kind of the controller of information and what it is that people believed, the rise of podcasts, the rise of people talking on Twitter, on Instagram, or whatever the case may be, has kind of shifted people away from that.
That's not all he bought,
no, he bought the whole entire company with all of the rest of the stuff. But it's the rise of independent media has kind of taken away their power. So I think they're kind of trying to get that back by acquiring independent media outlets and tastemakers, so to speak, because all kinds of people go on Hot Ones. I think Kevin Hart was on there. I saw Vince Staples on there, like Seth Rogen was on there. Like, it's such a wide array of people, and
great acquirer. That's a great acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so they have control over that, and then you have, by extension, you have control over the voices of a lot of people that go on there, and you see a lot of people who will just go with stuff. Ooh, Taylor Swift is voting for Kamala. That's amazing. So we are too. Like, that means stuff to certain people. Like, they care heavily who fucking Brad Pitt votes for, or whoever it is that people care about now. Like, that's an interesting thing to them.
Yeah. So when I say power struggle, I mean, do you think the other side was happy? I don't think so. Do you think the other side was probably wishing, or maybe behind the scenes trying to do the same thing Mr. Soros was doing? I mean, if I was, I would. That's what I would do. I'd be like, man, if that, because to add some context to the listener, they were in debt. Hot Ones, or the company that owned Hot Ones, were in debt, a couple of $100 and some odd $1 million. Soros put the money up, whatever the case may be. I think he wasn't the only buyer or potential buyer. And I'm just saying that from common sense. Because if I was on the other side, I'd be like, listen, man, I'm trying to put my bid in too. So do you think the other side was happy about Mr. Soros acquiring this great acquisition?
So what I kind of think is that I think that one side relies much more on purchased ambassadors and everything than the other side. Because I think, again, the other side has people that pop up more organically as supporters or proponents. If you strip away,
at least it looks like that.
Israel,
at least it looks like that. I agree.
Again, that's what it appears. That's what it appears to be like. But you see, because you can see, like, okay, clearly Taylor Swift is a paid endorsement for
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah,
right? But then you go to the other side, and they have that's the side who has the people like Candace Owens or
right.
whatever, who have big followings and are notable, but are not the typical type of celebrities. And those people seem to be more
Organic.
organic
Yeah,
supporters to me. So I think that one side has, again, that's just what it appears.
yeah,
Maybe they're just
right,
craftier. Who
right.
knows? But the organic supporting of it seems to be more heavy on one side than the other, so there's kind of people who will just pop up and do their own thing, because I mean, quite honestly, if we were like, we don't participate in either side, sure, but if we were to get lumped in one of the two, it would not be
Absolutely,
the liberal half,
absolutely.
and nobody is paying us.
No,
Nobody is saying, hey, you could say this or you
we don't
can't
want
say
it.
this.
We
This
don't
is
want it
just what
either.
it is.
I don't want it. I don't want. Yeah,
Exactly. No, not at
no.
all. But the point is, so I think that because one side happens to skew, at least publicly so, towards common sense and logic. So more people fall on that side free of any sort of persuasion, right? Because it would take a lot for me to stand up here and say that I think that dude can become a woman. And when I say a lot, I don't think that anyone has specifically what it is that I would require.
Word. A
So
sickness.
I
A
don't
sickness, right? Yeah,
that's what I'm
sickness.
saying. So, but I don't like, and that's one of the biggest reasons I don't believe that anybody organically holds that belief.
Mm,
Period. I don't believe that's an organic belief at all. Now, maybe the people who have this issue and I don't even think really truly they believe that they're the same. I mean, some of them do. I'm sure some of the more extreme and the new ones do. But by and large, they've been a thing for forever. And they were never sitting there trying to convince anybody that they were the
right.
same. That's new. But I don't believe that's an organic belief at all. So I believe that everyone who has adopted that belief has either been swayed and or purchased. That's my
No,
personal belief.
that's to me. That's kind of spot on, man. I mean, you answered my question. Um, I guess it is. It is a little bit more nuanced than just power struggle and side, and because you just kind of broke it down. Like, yeah, I feel like even like a move like Junior being first on one side and then crossing over to the other side seemed to be organic, right? It wasn't. It didn't seem to be like a move that was strategized beforehand.
See that's the other thing too, is because he's not. I mean, again, this could be a very well orchestrated
Spitball.
thing,
We
but
spitballing here. Yeah, it's not. We don't know.
he's just doesn't hold, like, he's heavily labeled as a conspiracy theorist and all of
Right.
that stuff, and that just doesn't go with that side to me. But what I do find interesting, and this is a great point to what it is that we were talking about before, because originally he was running as either a Democrat or an independent,
Democrat.
one of the two,
Democrat.
and he got up and he gave a speech. Everybody loved his speech and applauded him, both sides of the thing, and they were like, "This is amazing. This is what it is that we
Yep.
need." Then he stepped down and said, "I support Trump," and the people who were
Mm,
originally championing him
mm,
immediately turned on him, immediately, because they heard the word that they were conditioned to be against, and they just flipped without thinking about it, because any degree of common sense would tell you, I love everything that this man said.
right.
He realizes that he has no chance, and what he's best off doing is endorsing a candidate. So he endorsed that. Why didn't he endorse this person? Why did
Absolutely.
he endorse this person?
Yeah.
The true common sense, free thinking, I'm coming to my own conclusions thought says, I supported him. He supports this person. Why? Not you immediately, not fuck you immediately,
Right.
not an immediate rejection, not immediate anger. Why does he support him? If I like everything that he says, am I missing something about this other guy? But they don't think like that, because again, these aren't their own organically held beliefs. They just operate off of these buzzwords and this conditioning for stuff. They don't know why they feel the way that they do. They just go with boom, whatever.